Time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join News Director Paul David and News Editor Philip Catalfamo as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics in Yavapai County that affect all our lives. And now here's today's Countywide.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Countywide. I'm your host, Philip Catalfamo. I'd like to thank you for joining me. On today's show, we are joined by Yavapai Flood Control District Director Lynn Whitman. Lynn, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Well, we're very, very happy to have you. As you know and everybody else knows, monsoon season is continuing. So I just want to ask, just kind of in general, just to start off, what does the Yavapai County Flood Control District do?
We actually have several functions. Our main function is regulating within the FEMA floodplains. We also are in charge of making sure the maps stay up to date and current. We have an alert system for flood warning where we measure rainfall and streams, and we work with the National Weather Service. They use our data to put together their warnings and their watches. We have a stormwater department that looks at water quality, so they look at pollution and different things that are in the water. And then, of course, we build some flood control structures to try to protect homes from flooding.
So a lot of, obviously, dealing with flood. It's a flood control district, of course.
Yes.
You've been the director since 2018. I know that you were with the district previously before that.
Right.
But I want to ask, now that you're in your new position as director, what's your day-to-day life kind of look like?
It changes based on the season. Right now, my whole day is basically talking to people about flooding that's happened at their property and things that they can do to stay safe and maybe to fix some issues on their property. But when it's not raining, we do, I spend time working with consultants on mapping and construction projects and, basically helping to steer where we're going with our regulations.
So this is kind of like your busiest time of the year then, right?
This and sometimes if we have winter flooding or spring flooding, yes.
I mean, like I mentioned, you've been with the district for a little while. How have you seen the district change in some of your guys' operations, some of the things that you guys have done? How have you changed throughout the years to sort of, maybe adjust to new technologies or just in general?
Sure. We have a lot of things that have moved to GIS. We used to use a lot of AutoCAD.
What is GIS?
GIS, Geographical Information System, so it's a mapping system.
Okay.
All of our floodplains are in there. So we used to have all paper maps. Now we've got all digital maps. And not only do we have digital maps, but rather than just being a line where you're in the floodplain or you're out of the floodplain, we now have depth grids that show how deep the flood would be and velocity grids that show how fast it would be moving. So really, maps have come a long way.
How do you guys sort of define those district lines? I mean, you talked about sort of deciding who is in and who's out. I mean, how do you guys kind of decipher that? Or are those lines probably already pretty drawn, right?
They are. FEMA gave us our maps in 1985, and so, but it's based on they call it the 100-year storm, but really it's a 1% chance of flooding in any given year. Okay. And so they put those maps down, and that's pretty much the standard that everybody uses for modeling.
Yeah, pretty interesting that you guys are, really just kind of, like you said, mapping everything out, just getting an idea. Like you said, certain areas might be more susceptible to flooding and some may not. We will talk a little bit about some of those trouble spots, but I want to start here. How did the county do this? I know the monsoon season's still going on, but how's the county doing right now with the monsoon?
Monsoons are so sporadic that some areas north of Prescott Valley and up in Paulden have received a lot of rain. They're on track to receive a record rainfall. And then the southwest corner, almost nothing, less than 2 inches in some spots. And so I know over on this side, it's gearing up to be an average monsoon season, but it's been a lot lighter than up on the other side of the county. Yeah,
Coconino County has definitely been hit pretty hard with their flooding and just precipitation in general. We talked a little bit about some of those trouble areas. Can we talk more specifically about where you guys kind of see the most flooding? And are there any areas that you guys are going to know that is going to be an issue down the line? Any that you're trying to change? Any just sure. Anything that you're currently working on? Or I'll stop talking. Go ahead, Lynn.
No, because of the nature of monsoon season and then the spring flooding, it changes. It really does. A couple of years ago, we had a lot of flooding in Yarnell after those fires. Yeah. This year, they're not getting a lot of rain, but we're getting all of the rain north of Prescott Valley. And so we know one area that floods all the time is Rimrock. Okay. And the tricky part about Rimrock is a lot of those houses were built before we had floodplain maps, and it's pretty dense. So coming up with a solution to protect those homes is really tricky. So we do apply for a lot of grants, and we think we have a grant coming in just to study that area and see if there's some kind of a solution we can come up with.
Now, what are some of maybe those solutions outside of maybe providing more sandbags or you know, some of the basics like letting people know about the danger in the area?
Right. We could do a detention pond that would hold the water back and release it more slowly so they wouldn't have such a big rush of water. It could be just protecting the banks or widening the banks. You know, it could be a lot of things. But like I said, because of the way the subdivision is set up, it's really tricky in that area.
And then you guys are working alongside with other you know, county officials and stuff to try to fix some of those problems. I mean, how do you guys approach that at that county level? I mean, do you put together a plan and go, hey, this is the area, this is some of the things that we want to get done. You know, how can we get that done?
Yes, we have a 5-year plan. Every year when we do the budget, we put together a 5-year plan of how we plan to spend the next 5 years worth of money. But we have enough projects for 20 years just because we know where the problems have been. Every year new problems pop up with all the new development, and so we do work with Public Works very closely on the roads because they can only spend money up to the right-of-way, but we can spend money on drainage projects. So, you know, we kind of combine our money with their forces and get bigger projects done. And so yeah, there's a lot of coordination.
Yeah. What about just our moisture numbers in general? I know we can't get too specific with the numbers itself, but you know, we're at a point where we're at an exceptional drought here, and then obviously we've been seeing a lot of precipitation, as I mentioned, in the Coconino County area, obviously in Prescott, a little bit here in the Verdi Valley. Where are we in terms of just the drought? I mean, are we getting a little better? What can you say to that?
Yeah, I know at one point they told us that if there was something beyond exceptional drought, we would be there. And now I think we're getting into the moderate drought range. Okay. Yeah, it's helping a little bit.
And it's great. I mean, of course, we obviously need the moisture in the area. And you know, in a lot of ways, obviously, this also presents new problems for you guys because it shows you these areas are susceptible to flooding.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, you know, let's talk a little bit more just about that process itself. I mean, you know, are there any, outside of Yarnell, are there any other new areas that you guys are taking a look at? Any areas that you, in the future, kind of want to take a look at?
You know, I'm really interested in the areas up north of 89A coming toward Mingus Mountain. Okay. And then there are some areas outside of Cottonwood that have just had problems in a solution. It's another rimrock where it's just hard to find the right solution.
Coming down 89A, that's like the Jerome area, yeah?
Actually on the other side.
Oh, on the other side.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I got you.
Some of those new kind of wildcat subdivisions.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, those wacky and wild subdivisions, huh? Yes. Let's take a quick break here, Lynn. When we come back, we'll still be joined by Yavapai Flood Control District Director Lynn Whitman. We'll talk about just flooding and experience and what you should do if you experience flooding in your area or near your house. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Countywide is not going anywhere.
Terrifying jobs. Bull rider, take 2.
Cliff, this seems like a really terrifying job. Why do you do it?
I love protecting the bull riders when they get bucked up.
How big are these bulls?
12 to 2,200 pounds of pure muscle.
You're not cowed by any of this, obviously. Is there anything that scares you?
Yeah. Distracted drivers terrify me.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
The EPA says C&B Construction ranks in the top 1% nationally. C&B Construction invites you to see what energy efficiency and indoor air quality can be. We have won another Department of Energy Innovation Award, and C&B Construction is the only contractor in the country to win 6 consecutive EPA Indoor Air Plus awards. Experience our zero-energy, move-in ready homes at Crossroads at Mingus.
C&B Construction, locally respected, nationally recognized. Find out more at C&B Homes.com.
Award-winning Soundbites Grill is an entertainment restaurant located in Uptown Sedona at the Hyatt Pinion Point Resort. Open for lunch and dinner, featuring fresh fish, all-natural hand-cut beef, even a full vegan menu. Family friendly, open 11:30 to 9. Late dining on Friday and Saturday. Soundbites Grill has some of the best views of the Sedona Red Rocks. Offers world-class entertainment, food, fun, and music.
I want to welcome you back here to Countywide. I'm your host, Philip Catalfamo. We are joined by Yavapai Flood Control District Director Lynn Whitman. In the first segment, we talked about how the county did in terms of the monsoon season, which is, of course, still going on. Lynn, we talked about mapping. I just kind of want to ask more about that process. You know, how often are these maps updated? What just is that process in general?
Right. So these maps were originally done in the actually late 60s, early 70s. We received them in 1985. But because of new technology and changing topography, we like to update them to make sure that they're actually on the creek, because they're not always exactly on the creek. So we will do a study where we model it with the new technology and the new topography. We submit it to FEMA. If it's just one map, it's usually a pretty quick process, but some of our larger projects are multiple maps, and it can take several years to get those approved by FEMA.
How do you guys kind of decide which map needs to be updated?
A lot of times we look at where development is happening.
Okay.
You know, we want to, I'd hate for somebody to build a house and then find out that the floodplain was shifted off of their property, and actually they are in the floodplain. So
right.
If we see that an area looks like it's up and coming, we like to go ahead and get that mapped so we know how to regulate that.
Well, let's talk more about if somebody does experience flooding. You talk about a house being built on accident in that area, which does not happen, of course. But I want to ask, if somebody experiences flooding, I mean, what should they do? Are they contacting the district? Obviously, first and foremost, call 911. But maybe more after the fact. If somebody has experienced flooding, what should they do?
Once it's done, they should contact Development Services, because they will come out and inspect the house to make sure that it's safe to be in, and talk about the permitting process. Of course, if they have flood insurance, they should go ahead and call their insurance agent. Regular homeowners insurance does not cover flood damages, and anybody in Yavapai County can get flood insurance.
I know that there's been a lot of flooding in the museum burn scar up in Coconino County, and we've had a few stories about just assessments about like their houses and stuff regarding the level of flooding.
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys would handle if that was the case here in Yavapai County, or is that just a Coconino County thing?
Anything that would deal with the house and its state would be through Development Services.
Okay.
If it's for insurance purposes, that would go through their insurance, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about the data sandbags. Where should people go to pick up sandbags if they feel they need them in Yavapai County?
We have them in several places, and if you go to the Yavapai County website to Public Works under Emergency Management, they have an updated list, and I think it changes pretty frequently.
You can find the sandbag information on the district website.
We have a link to it, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so
they maintain that information, yeah.
Perfect. That is ycflood.com. Sometime this week, it will change to yavapaiaz.gov, but for right now, it's still ycflood.com. It is up on our screen, yavapaiaz.gov/ycflood. Like we said, it probably will switch over sometime this week, and that will be the permanent website. So if you just go to the county website, or if you, again, go to YC Flood, it should take you to the same area, correct?
Right.
Okay. Data collection. There's obviously a way that you guys are measuring the amount of rain and the amount of flood. Let's talk about that data collection process as a whole.
Yes. We have a flood warning department, and they have, I think, about 114 gauges throughout the county and Coconino County that collect precipitation data in real time. They've also got stream gauges and weather stations, and our manager for that department works very closely with the National Weather Service to ground truth what they're seeing in the sky, and put together their warnings and everything like that. So, yeah, we've got data back into the 90s.
I mean, is it just like a bunch of measuring sticks in different places? I mean, how do you guys actually measure the data?
They are 6-foot standpipes, and it all goes through radio to our building, basically, and right into our computers, and we've got all that data from forever. And
then, like you said, you guys use that data. Obviously, the National Weather Service checks that data out. You guys are using that data to measure hot spots or bad areas or anything like that,
yes,
too?
We get it, so it allows us to get warnings. So we can set thresholds where, say, if you get an inch in 15 minutes in a certain location, it will send a text message to our phones that says, this area is getting hit really hard right now.
So kind of like our Ready, Set, Go notifications during fire season.
Right. But it just goes to us. It doesn't go to
okay. So not anything like that, actually.
No. I mean, same idea, but just us.
Gotcha. And then, like I mentioned, you obviously using that data to sort of identify problem areas and stuff and to fix them. I mean, anywhere else are you guys using that data to measure anything else?
We like just to look at historical flood information. You know, we then like to look at what level of storm we had, or what kind of, certain areas, once they get flooded, then we know, okay, 8 feet is when we start to really look at this creek, because that's when it starts to get dangerous for people.
Any areas that have really changed over the years that maybe at one point weren't as susceptible but are, and then vice versa, are super susceptible and then aren't? You
know, what's really interesting is after a fire, the runoff is, we did, after the Goodwin fire, we looked at the precipitation they got, and the runoff was 8 times what we would have expected if they hadn't had a fire. And that continues for several years, not to that extreme, but for several years they are more susceptible just because of the lack of vegetation.
I forgot to ask about how fires sort of change, the way that you guys measure stuff as well, because obviously a fire is changing the landscape, so you're getting a completely different, like you said, the runoff is completely different.
Right.
So I'll ask, how do fires kind of affect your job?
Pretty directly, because, like I said, the runoff afterwards is increased, and so first there's the debris flow with all of the ash and any of the fallen trees and anything like that. So that's its own hazard, and then because of the loss of vegetation for years, there's an increased flow through there. So we work very closely with the emergency management department to follow those fires and see what kind of watershed is there and who might be impacted by those.
Yeah, because it seems like, like I said, there's a lot of flooding issues up in the museum burn scar area up in Coconino County. It's just, you have this beautiful area, and it's unfortunately taken out by wildfires, and then the waters, the rain's just pushing it all down, and causing a lot of issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so flooding, definitely a major issue in a lot of areas at a lot of time. Thankfully, though, Lynn Whitman is a part of the solution, trying to fix some of those issues with some of the flooding we see around the county.
Thank you.
A compliment that we'll see if we can transition into a question. But you did mention, just before we go to break, and we'll touch upon it again, the Oak Creek flood planning change, planning remapping, I should say, is going to be happening soon. Can we talk just kind of briefly about what that is?
So we've remapped all of Oak Creek and its tributaries. It's been going on for years. We did it with a $1.2 million grant from FEMA, and the public response period is coming up, and so starting in September, the public will be able to submit comments and make changes if needed, and it's a 90-day period. So.
And that's starting in September?
Yes.
And then where should people go to participate in that?
If they go to our website, we will be having public meetings, and all of that information will be available at our website.
Okay, cool. So again, ycflood.com if you want to check out their website. It will eventually change to yavapaiaz.gov/ycflood, but for right now, like we said, YCFlood or Yavapai, either way, you'll be able to go check out the website for all that information about the upcoming remapping. We'll talk a little bit more about remapping when we come back on the other side of this break. Countywide, we'll be right back with Yavapai County Flood Control District Director Lynn Whitman. Don't go anywhere.
Who doesn't dream of home improvements? Perhaps your kitchen, the real living room. Maybe the bathroom, where you bookend your day. Langstrand Contracting is your one-stop shop from tear down to finishing touches. With 35 years of experience, Chris and his team will work with you to match your family's style and budget. Call Langstrand Contracting today for guidance in bringing your vision to life.
Hi, this is Greg at Verdi Solar Power. Arizona has lots of clean, renewable sunshine, and we want to help you take advantage of it with our quality solar installations, and we offer to beat any written offer on a residential solar electric system. So bring us your electric bill and let us show you how solar power will save you money. We're located conveniently here in the Verdi Valley and are dedicated to helping the Valley go solar. So remember, the energy solution comes up every morning.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verdi Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Welcome back to Countywide. On today's show, we are joined by Yavapai Flood Control District Director Lynn Whitman. In the first segment, we talked a little bit about what the district did. In the second segment, we talked about how the county fared during monsoon season. And now we talked a little bit about the Oak Creek flood plan remapping. We talked a little bit about what that was at the end of the previous segment. But I do want to ask, what are you guys looking to accomplish with this remapping? Are there some problem areas in Oak Creek that you guys are looking at? Or just what's the plan?
Mostly because the maps are so old, there wasn't very much development when they were put together. And so because of the newer technology, we can line them up better. Sometimes they're not exactly on the creek. The confluence with Spring Creek has always been a problem, understanding how those two come together, especially with the subdivision built right at that confluence. And so mostly with the new development, 30 years of development, just getting them updated and more accurate.
Are there any other areas that you guys are looking to possibly remap in the future?
We have a lot of A zones in this county, and those are floodplains that haven't been studied in a detailed way. So it's just like there's a floodplain out here and it's mapped.
Yeah.
And so we like to come in. We've been tackling those like 100 miles at a time, getting those a little more scientifically mapped. And it usually shrinks them. Usually, FEMA just put out a wide swath of floodplain, and we like to get it to be a little more accurate.
Oh, that's cool. You guys can be really precise then.
Yes.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to know if I'm building property. I'd love to know if it's in the way of a possible flood path, or of course everybody would. There is going to be a public comment period with the Oak Creek flood plan remapping.
Correct.
It's going to be in September.
Yep. Again,
ycflood.com. It will eventually change to yavapaiaz.gov sometime this week. Residents of Oak Creek, who are you guys looking to comment on this?
Absolutely, and it's all the tributaries, and we did it in coordination with Coconino County, so they're a part of it as well.
Okay, cool. But we'll reiterate some information here. Just if somebody experiences flooding, what should they do?
Obviously call 911, send development services, but if they just want advice on how to protect their homes, maybe with grading around their property, they can call us anytime and we will send out a hydrologist to help them out.
Sandbags, where can we get sandbags in Yavapai County?
You'd have to look at the emergency management page, but a lot of times it's the fire departments or schools, things like that.
Perfect. What about you and your job, and what are some things that you want to accomplish going forward? You've accomplished a lot so far. You became the director in 2018. Before we go, what are some things that you'd like to accomplish before you decide to retire?
Right. Some of the things we're looking at is combining storm protection projects with aquifer recharge projects. We feel like we're in a good position to move in that direction so that we can combine the two and maybe do some good.
And what are some of the benefits of combining the two?
Cost savings, because you don't have to do them separately, but also we can do a detention pond to protect a subdivision, but then allow some of that water to recharge the aquifer.
Oh, okay.
So they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, very cool. So again, if you want some more information just about the district in general, ycflood.com or yavapaiaz.com/ycflood. Both will take you to the same place. Their phone number is 928-771-3197. Lynn, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
That is going to do it for this episode of Countywide. I'm your host, Philip Catalfamo, wishing you a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.